Hello and welcome back to the last week of Duel Commander League hosted by MTG Prime. We're a bit late with the final session here, but here we are. It's Matthieu on Cloud against Alexandre on Leovold. I'm back with Samuel, of course.
Hi, everyone.
And yeah, I think this is an interesting matchup. We have the White Weenie deck that I personally rated to be an S tier. I think many people agreed on that, and also many other people disagreed with that. But I think it definitely belongs to A tier, if not S tier. While I would say Leovold on the other side is not the most popular choice.
Bro.
If it isn't for Alexandre playing the deck.
Yeah, I think we've got an interesting start here. Mulliganing on the play always hurts a little bit.
Yeah,
He also does not have a second white source, so he's not going to be able to cast Cloud, which is a great combination with an Ocelot Pride producing tokens and a Skull Clamp to go get. But he does have the Reverent Mantra to protect his board somewhat against spot removal if he decides to do that. He also has the ability to, next turn, if he doesn't draw a white source, he can, since the deck does play a lot of, the Leovold deck is going to be playing mostly destroy removal, he can play the Samwise to get back either a dead Ocelot or a dead Drannith, if that's
true.
what Leovold does on his turn. So we might see a go here to just kind of use that Samwise insurance. He's got 3 power on the board now, 4 in his end step, possibly 6 by the time he untaps next turn. So he's putting pressure on. He can't the Leovold can't be deployed to block the board. So yeah, I think this is looking pretty good so far. No black mana either.
Yeah.
Now we see a Spell Seeker, which also does not block the board very well. Curious to see what he goes to get.
Yeah, I think this is one of the very good examples that Ocelot Pride in the early game with protection, it resolves. And you're producing buddies all over again. That's
Yeah.
just a very bad spot for a control deck already. And since Alexander did not manage to find black mana, there's also no Fatal Push or alike around the corner, which makes it even harder to deal with the cat. Drannith, as you said, blocks a couple of things. Here is the DT, so there might be black mana in hand, which he decided not to play yet. And we have an end of turn E-tutor, which
So
could go for Ancient Den to have a land drop.
I feel like the
Since,
Tangle Wire is the most
yeah,
attractive
the
looking card here
Tangle
right
Wire is
now.
also a really powerful one. That's true.
Yeah.
Mm.
He
And that
does
would
kind of
put him to City's Blessing already, right? End of turn. Yeah,
would it?
to do the job. Unless
No.
Alexandro
He goes
blocks one of the cats. Yeah, okay, then
but he
no,
also
of
just
course.
would have gone to 8 and then 9 with the Pride
Oh,
token.
true. Since he has no land drop, never mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. There is a Force of
Oh.
Negation. That's a really good one in this situation.
It also a card that did cost a lot of tempo.
Yeah.
Since he used the or not even tempo, card advantage. So he used the Enlightened Tutor to go get it. Also didn't have a land drop um to play. So the DT there is the I would say there is the time for the DT to go for a Toxic Deluge now. Or just a Damnation. I'm not sure if Leovold does play Damnation, but yeah.
Yeah,
He
I
can
would.
keep the Samwise open now, which also feels pretty good.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
goes
I
to
think
6.
this might be the Toxic for 3. Going down to 3. Samwise gets back something. And he's down to 1. That's not too shabby.
Yeah, I feel like you would have gone for a damnation, not a toxic, since it's just oh, a Thoughtseize.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah. He goes to
Get rid of
1,
Samwise, yeah. So maybe it is the toxic then.
shocks, and then he damnations.
Oh,
No, a
Thought
Thought
Lash.
Lash. Ah, okay. Yeah, that makes more sense. That is fair. So he could have. So now the clock is basically infinite.
Yeah.
Mm,
But I mean, you can go for Cloud and draw a couple of cards with the cat tokens, refueling your hand. Maybe find a solution to the Thought Lash in the form of Kata Commando, for example, Static Prison, things like this.
yep.
I think there are a couple of options.
I'm not sure if the
Now, yeah,
Cloud
Alex.
deck has. Why is he exiling so many cards?
Maybe he doesn't want to. Yeah, okay. He doesn't want to take that much damage. Is he
Well, no,
expecting a combat trick or something? No, because
but
yeah,
he can
he
still
can.
respond to the combat trick before damage happens.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
So
So it's most likely a skull clamp coming down,
no land,
and here we have the city's blessing active.
no life gained though. So
Yeah, true.
yeah, if there's no immediate answer. Oh well, there we go.
Oh,
We just
okay,
see.
okay. Not bad. He had the combo. That's not bad. Well, that definitely saves him the game.
It does.
You do Windows games from time to time. And now Matthieu is on the play again. With,
This
I think it's a fine hand. The Dust Bowl might do the job later on. Peacekeeper is definitely good. You have a nice curve, I would say.
Yeah, because he has the ability to go Peacekeeper next turn with a City of Traitors, and then the turn after that he can play the Dust Bowl and respond to the City of Traitors trigger, sacrificing the City of Traitors to activate the Dust Bowl,
Oh, okay.
if that's what he
Here we
wants to do.
have. So the Inquisition is probably taking care of the Peacekeeper. Yeah,
Yeah, and now we might see Snow-Covered Plains Cloud.
I would think so too. Oh, Witch Enchanter is another answer for Outlash. And okay, Cloud goes
Yeah,
for the formal wear to get back the Peacekeeper. That makes sense.
there's the possibility for there to be like a cloud, not a cloud, a psychic frog or something from Leovold that would fit very well into the sequencing of Cloud to play the City of Traitors and then um, have the mana to Seam Rip as well. That is not the case, so we might just see a sort of Feast and Famine cast here. And a Cloud attack.
I mean, you could also go for the formal wear right away, giving your opponent a reason to do things.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that runs pretty hard into a counterspell.
Yes,
But if
yes, it
Leovold
does.
doesn't have one, then off to the races.
I think the sword is much more valuable than the pre formal wear line here, to be honest.
True. Well,
Since I mean,
yeah, it does
you
it
have like
does give a
double
lot of
discard.
protection.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Of course, if Tazigo, I was about to say, that's not the right Sultai commander here. If Leovold is on field, you have to you target twice with the sword, which means they will also compensate twice for the discard. Then again, getting back more mana, playing out your entire hand against a deck that doesn't have too much interaction is probably not the best thing for Leovold, at least.
Yeah. And I feel like as we saw, he was about to name Leovold there, and then he realized, well, next turn, if he plays Leovold, I play sword, equip sword, um, then it's got protection from black and green, and I get my sword trigger anyway, so it doesn't, that would have not really helped there.
Yeah, that's true.
For other way around, it doesn't help the Leovold player to play the Leovold here. So now he just gets to resolve the sword, equip the sword, and start doing powerful things.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not bad. Hitting with a 7/7. You know, oh, he did not skip it. He does not get to choose what to discard. That's up to Alexandre still. I'm a bit surprised. Maybe I have to read the thought again afterwards as to why it wasn't another card drawn, or was it off of
Well, no,
the?
the sword of feast and famine is
Is a
when it hits a
target, isn't it?
player, a player discards um the player dealt damage, discards a
Okay.
card, and
Okay. It doesn't specifically target again. Okay. Ah, so here we have an
Oko
Oko.
Oko a strong top deck here.
Hmm.
However, that Oko is
Kind
being
of.
pressured
Yeah.
with the cards on
Getting
board.
rid of the sword. Not too shabby.
Okay, so he's deciding to go for a cloud cast here.
Yeah, I would do so too, I guess. I mean, what else?
Yeah, there was the option to Dust Bowl again, but that gives the opponent a card, and I'm not sure if that would be correct.
Interesting to go for the jitter here.
Yeah.
This
I mean, he
seems to be a card.
already has the pre-war formal wear, and I think he wants to maintain control of the board with the way that it's going.
Yeah.
I think there is a valid case for just going for life total and ignoring the Oko at this point, since there's no artifact on the board to exchange control of right now.
Yeah. That might be a problem next turn. And you know, if Leovold decides to make a food token, you still have the seam rip.
Okay, so he just lets combat happen. The Peacekeeper attacked the Oko, and the sword attacked life. He cannot cast the Jace right now. Curious to see what there is. There's a
He can
different
cast another
Jace.
Jace. Oh, we haven't seen that one for a while.
Curious to see what this Jace does. Okay, it bounces the Peacekeeper. The Flare of Denial was already in the graveyard, so this Peacekeeper could come down again and simply shut off the Jace's abilities. Mm, he has no interaction for Leovold directly.
I mean, you can bring down jitter.
He can bring down Jitter and
Get two
ah,
triggers without
yeah, it
first
doesn't
strike. It's not too crazy, but you know.
exactly. It doesn't kill the Jace, and it doesn't kill the opponent right away.
But
And
then you
killing
still have to deal
Leovold
with the
draws a
sword.
lot of cards here. So
Only one, right? If you block, and
wait,
then
yeah, if Leovold blocks, then sure. I feel like okay, he's attacking Jace with both creatures.
I think he's attacking Jace with Cloud. No?
Oh, he said attack all.
Yeah, right, right. Um okay, so we have two triggers. Now you can Great Leovold for one trigger here. Or for one counter, actually. While a 3/3 Sword of Feast and Famine Elk still stays on the board.
Yeah. So Cloud went to the graveyard there. I'm not sure what the decision point was to have that happen, since the the
Oh, I know
obvious
why.
Oh?
Because there is the e-tutor can find the 1 mana equipment that copies an equipment on field. And
Oh,
then
yeah, that's a strong
you would
line.
get him back, right? Masterworks Ingenuity or something like this, I think it's called. So
Oh,
Jace coming down.
it's a pretty desperate Jace, since the sword can just get the jitter and win the game here.
Yeah.
Um, I think since that was the play, he decided to go for the Peacekeeper, because if there is a removal spell, he's forced to use the removal spell now. Yeah, and he just scoops up.
1/1. Okay. Interesting dynamic here in the second one.
Oh,
Oh,
this is
Zigada's 8 and Onslaught Pride. That's a really good hand, actually.
Yeah, I like this hand a lot.
Yeah, me too. Witch Enchanter definitely more like a land here rather than a tutor that interacts with something. Also because
Yep.
apart from Thoughtlash, we didn't see too many things in the previous games.
Yeah, there was potential for quite a few things. There was a potential for something like an elked. Wait, no, elk cards are not artifacts anymore, right? No, never mind. But he could
Yep.
have killed a food if the Oko ever made a food, stuff like that, but didn't end up happening. So on the draw with the Ocelot Pride is definitely worse than being on the play. And we see an Inquisition.
But I think
The upside of the Inquisition is that he does have 2 good 1-drops, and if he takes the yeah, the curve of this hand is really good either way, because
yeah,
Cloud
it's
is
also kind
interchangeable
of
for
yeah, for
Stoneforge.
Stoneforge Mystic, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of ridiculous to have twice this effect available. I think I would tend more to take away the 8 because there is less interaction for Zigada's 8. Onslaught Pride, there might be some
Yeah.
some things to find against. And in the first round it doesn't produce the token yet. So this is definitely the less scary target.
Yeah. If we see sorcery instant speed interaction for the oh, okay.
I
Yeah,
mean, yes,
the
Strix
Strix
is not
does
the
not block.
best.
Yeah, exactly. Strix really does not block Ocelot Pride well. It's one of those when Strix was printed in 2013, it was the reason that the deck that it was in was always sold out. Wait, no. Strix was printed in a
Commander.
plane chase deck.
Plane chase, right, not
Yeah,
commander. Yep.
yeah. True Name Nemesis was the reason that the Commander deck was always sold out,
True.
and Strix and True Name were played in the same Legacy deck for a while. Um,
But wasn't no True Nemesis got a reprint in Battle Bond. Yeah, right.
yes,
I
yes.
yeah.
True Name Nemesis was printed in Commander 2013. No, 2014.
No, wasn't it? We will check that later. We will check that
Yeah.
later.
The one that Prosh was also printed in.
Yeah. So Stoneforge Mystic going for the sword again. And the Mystic is one of those cards that Alexandre has to handle. If not, at least the sword will come down for free. Not for free, but you can't really interact with that unless there's a stifle.
Yeah. And at instant speed, keep the mana open. He also has the ability to deploy the Samwise if something gets killed on his side where he wants to take it back. Yeah, this is a pretty flexible start.
Yeah, I think Leovold is doing something here, but it's not too crazy.
I wonder if we will see a Parallax Wave cast next turn. We
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, there could so if he plays the sword, or if he Stoneforges the sword in next turn, or this turn, then he has potentially, with the equip, 6 mana, so he can play a Sanctifier. Oh yeah, and the Inquisition does hit something here, but the Sanctifier and the Sam are both kind of mediocre.
Yeah.
And if there's no land drop, then I'm scared for Leovold here.
I'm
However,
I'm reading the
the
sword again.
Snapcaster can block the sword, so um,
True.
yeah,
Yeah, that
that does
changes.
change things.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, without that, I think it would have been a pretty good line here. A
Are there
3/3 first
any
strike lifelink.
are there any crazy things that he can get with Cloud? Like any No, but I think the most expensive equipments are 3 mana, right? Like he could have clouded for something and then Stoneforged it into play.
Yeah.
Um,
So you're gonna play this untapped. You gained life anyways, and then you can bring down the Sanctifier, I guess, or Cloud. I think in combination with the Stoneforge, bringing down Cloud is the better way.
yeah,
Sanctifier is not really relevant here. So let's have a look. The masterwork of ingenuity is the copy. You can also go for the Sword of Fire and Ice if you wish.
I think that the sort of Fire and Ice would be my like intuitive grab here. There are Okay, yeah, going for the Masterwork is also fine. It lets you double up on the sort of Feast and Famine triggers, which attacks Leovold's hand very well. The only
Yeah,
issue I can see is if Leovold manages to deploy another blue blocker this turn, or somehow, has a bounce spell or something to interact with the Ocelot Pride, that might start getting problematic. Life totals are still pretty good on both sides here, so yeah, this is right now an attrition game to see who gets ahead on board or empty-handed first.
Mhm.
Mm, Deathrite does not block Ocelot Pride, so yeah, we are looking at what
Mhm.
does the Duke Rebel Sentinel do?
That's a new kind of mother from the Avatar Jumpstart. Enters with a 1/1 counter. You can remove a counter and another target creature against protection. It is played in some failure lists and Cloud. I would rather play it in failure, to be honest, because you can reset the ability by flickering the
Yeah.
creature. But yeah,
However, yeah, I mean, sure, you can reset it, but it it does have what's it called? Does have summoning sickness when it comes back. It
that's
is a
right. Yeah,
tap ability, so yeah.
that's true.
So subtlety trades with Cloud,
And here we see the blue blocker that you mentioned. That's a bit unfortunate, I would say.
but he does go to 0 cards in hand and is now staring down a pretty big board.
Yeah,
Jolted Awake gets back Sam, which gets back Cloud.
yeah, I would think so.
Um, and then he can maybe go for a Skull Clamp this time. Something gets to be a Ring Bearer. He has a
Something
legendary cat token now.
Very good.
Oh,
Okay, Lava
Lava
Spur
Spur
Boots.
Boots.
Interesting.
To give haste to who, I wonder?
Maybe it's rather about just
Maybe it's about the Ward 1?
yeah.
Oh, Cling to Dust. Oh, I mean, the Cling to Dust was the top deck here. But yeah,
Yeah,
keeping cards
otherwise we
on
would have
hand
seen
is
that.
gonna be tough. And
I mean, that's
yeah,
a
even with
huge
the
board, and now Alexandre is presenting 0 cards in hand, which means the Parallax Wave is free to go. And that's very likely a GG, ladies and gentlemen, that we are about to witness. Not sure if I like the decision here.
which decision?
To not play the Parallax Wave in favor of attacking with the sword.
I mean, he can play the Parallax Wave after combat.
Yeah,
I'm not
but
sure if he has.
wouldn't it be
uh,
lethal?
Yeah, I feel like I'm not sure if he's thinking too much about the decisions right now. He could have equipped the Sanctifier with the Lava Spur Boots in order to, um,
Add another
in order to
three
another,
damage. Yeah.
yeah, or 2 free damage because the Boots is on the cloud right now. So, um, but yeah, this is a pretty, I would say, hopeless board state. Oh no, it's not hopeless. A damnation, something like that. Still, he's still in the game. Um,
Also, the Thought Lash we saw in the first game could also do something here.
true, true.
Would certainly prevent the thoughts from triggering.
Oh, he gets to activate the Myrex in between Sword of Feast and Famine triggers.
That's cool. That's pretty cool, let's be honest.
Ah,
Quite cute, but
and
it's cool.
it happened. It happened. I was about to say, why did it happen twice? Well, it happened twice because Cloud is equipped with Sword of Feast and Famine.
Yeah, exactly.
Deciding not to play the Parallax Wave here, I'm not sure if I like that decision because the way he loses the game, or the way that the opponent kind of gets back into the game here, is with a board wipe. And having the Parallax Wave in hand with the board wipe is does give him the ability to eat up his own creatures and redeploy them with 0 counters on the Parallax Wave.
Yeah, and the Lava Spur Boots would grant haste.
Yeah, but this
So
is an
that's
activation of the, draw a card, discard a card, land, which does seem like too little too late, discarding a Force Spike.
yeah.
Uh,
And
I'm
here we
not
see
sure what.
a concession, or it's right
Oh,
around the corner, I would say.
no.
A Day's
Days Undoing
Undoing.
is also a
Ah,
card that, the Parallax Wave would have been able to eat the Leovold in response, and now he's not looking at 7 cards in hand. However, this is, I think, just a right-click attack all and a concession. Yeah, there we go.
yeah.
So,
Okay.
decisive game for Cloud here.
Yeah.
The first game was also, I would say, pretty lucky to combine both Thought Lash and Jace. There was a DT in between those 2 cards, but yeah, getting to surviving the game until combo turn 6 is, I would say, is from the experience of playing that combo in Tazigua, maybe a, difficult to pull off, I would say.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally. I
and
just
yeah,
realized when I talked about in game 2, when I talked about not going for the Skull Clamp, Leovold was actually on field, and I totally forgot about the fact that Leovold would deny the entire draw
true.
from Skull Clamp, which this might have been the reason why Matthieu decided to go for another target instead. So,
Yeah,
what do we learn from this? Play a bit more against Leovold, just not in 2026. It's just
exactly.
not.
I think that's something, we will see it at some point in the member focus. I fetched into an opposition agent that was on the board at one point. I played around the opposition agent the whole time it was in hand because I knew about it,
Mm.
and then as soon as it hit the board, like 2 turns later, I forgot it was on the board.
Yeah.
So, these sorts of things, they happen in complex games of Magic.
Yeah, that's true.
Being a better player is kind of maintaining that awareness the whole time and always thinking about your lines in the context of what the opponent's got on board and what the opponent could have in hand. But, yeah. And as you
Yeah,
can see, even us casting these games, we're 2 people and, we sort of missed that line of thought that, "Oh, don't go for the Skull Clamp because there's a Leovold."
yeah,
Sometimes
but
that
it's a bit of a
happens.
difference if we would cast the MTGO thingy live. We could hover over the cards and see like the entire text. And Leovold is a card that I've personally I've played it a lot myself, like 6 or 7 years ago, but I haven't seen it on the battlefield for ages. So those are some of those abilities, they quickly get lost in or drowned in all the other abilities. And as you see on the board state right now, there's quite a few things happening at the same time. And yeah. Well,
Yeah.
if you want to see the final result of the league, head over to MTG Prime and yeah, check out their channel. They also have a cool project, mainly providing French content, but also really good quality. Thanks a lot to those guys for the collab. It was fun casting those matchups here. This is the last version or the last session actually of this dual commander league. I have no idea if they will do it again in the future. I would I would think so, to be honest, because I think it was a quite a cool thing, quite a cool idea. And also we got to see some high level MTGO gaming. So thanks to you guys and thanks to our crowd for tuning in. We will see each other in the next one.
Yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.